Most of us learn in school that the United States is changing from a rural nation to a nation of city dwellers. Currently, about 3/4 of the U.S. population lives in cities and towns with more than 25,000 people. These urban folks depend on rural areas for nearly all of the food and raw materials they require to survive. As cities and towns continue to expand, they eat up rural land at the same time that they increase their demands for food and raw materials from these same lands. Eventually, the city's demands on rural and wild lands will become greater than these lands' ability to meet them. Recognizing this problem, some urban city folk are beginning to look for ways to meet some of their own needs without such heavy reliance on resources from elsewhere. To this end, many city people grow some of their own food in a garden. In a place like Missoula, Montana, though, cold weather presents a real challenge to the urban food grower. With less than 3 frost-free months, growing many garden vegetables from seeds to fruition is impossible outside. Using a greenhouse to create a warm and light environment for plants from early spring until late fall makes extensive food growing possible in Missoula. Some Missoula residents created a demonstration project to experiment with ideas and techniques in self-reliant urban living. When we decided to build a greenhouse on this site, we looked for ways to do so that were cheap, easy, and saved energy and materials. Our search led us to the technique of straw bale construction. This is the story of how a few Missoulians with little construction experience undertook the task of putting up a straw bale building. When most people first hear about making buildings out of straw, they envision flimsy structures that offer little protection from the elements and other dangers. But it's possible to make strong buildings with straw bales, and ones that are cheap and fairly easy for amateurs to make. What's more, the finished structures end up with thick walls that insulate the building more than a conventional wood stud wall, and don't use up wood from forests in our region. The greenhouse project sprang from the Ideas in Practice philosophy of the Missoula Urban Demonstration Projects, MUD for short. The folks at the MUD project looked for ways to experiment with and demonstrate self-reliant living skills in Missoula. On MUD's north side Missoula property, residents maintain extensive vegetable, herb, flower, and fruit tree gardens. These organic gardens are largely fertilized from the compost bins on site. Project staff also run the Northside Community Gardens for folks without home garden space. These gardens include wheelchair-accessible garden beds and plots where project staff grow food for the Food Bank of Missoula and the Poverello Center. MUD project residents work with energy-saving technologies like solar electric systems and home-built bike carts. When the old greenhouse at MUD began to show its age, we decided to replace it with a straw bale structure. Besides obtaining a new, bigger, and better greenhouse, we wanted to promote the idea of straw bale buildings for people in Missoula. The MUD straw bale greenhouse is the first straw bale structure to be approved by the Missoula Building Department. We wanted to construct our greenhouse as cheaply as possible, using as little energy and materials as we could manage. We excavated the foundation entirely by hand. A straw bale walled building requires a thick perimeter wall to support the bales, and since greenhouse plants get watered often, the foundation must be well drained. We filled the trench that will be under the walls with river rock from a large pile of waste rock at the Northside Community Gardens. Our building uses salvaged lumber to form a wood frame to bear the weight of the structure. 5 posts rest on concrete piers set to below the frost line. The walls under the bales don't have to support as much weight, so to save money and materials, we made a rubble wall, mixing rocks and concrete fragments into our cement mix. We want these walls to act as thermal mass and gather and store heat. To prevent this heat from being transmitted to the ground, the outside forms act as insulation. These waste pieces of foam core door fragments will remain in the ground after the wall is poured. The inside forms get pulled away after the cement hardens. We mixed our own concrete to save money. For the perimeter walls, we substituted fly ash for Portland cement. Fly ash is a waste product of coal burning. It's cheaper than Portland cement and uses up some waste material. The cement was mixed in a wheelbarrow, 1 wheelbarrow at a time. As we poured the cement into the forms, we added river rock to fill volume. Before the concrete set, we placed rebar posts. These will hold the bottom row of bales when we build the walls. The front wall includes vent tubes to help cool the greenhouse in hot weather. When the foundation was complete, we set 5 posts on the piers. The front center post is a salvaged steel post. Since it will be inside the moist greenhouse environment, we use steel instead of wood to avoid rotting problems. The corner posts are salvaged wood, as is the main cross beam. The straw bales get stacked after we lay tar paper on the concrete to keep the bales from wicking moisture. The bottom bales get impaled on the rebar set in the perimeter wall. The bales get stacked like bricks. Each row is offset. Subsequent rows of bales have rebar and wooden stakes driven through them to stabilize them. Some bales have to be custom made to fill the gaps at the end of the rows. Some have to be notched to fit around the posts. The finished walls are surprisingly solid. With the roof on, our greenhouse is nearly complete. We'll finish the sidewalls, install glass on the south side, and spread stucco over the exposed bales to prevent decay and animal infestation. Structures built with this technique in Nebraska have been continuously occupied for over 60 years. We expect this greenhouse to last many decades, helping Northside gardeners in Missoula be more self-reliant. The straw bale technique is becoming more popular as folks find out how inexpensive and energy efficient the completed buildings can be. Many who thought they couldn't afford their own home have realized that they can afford a straw bale home and can tackle most of the work themselves. Now that the first building permit has been issued in Missoula for a straw bale building, the door is open to Missoula residents to tackle projects like these themselves. If you want to become more independent in providing for your gardening and shelter needs, consider a straw bale structure. If we did it, you can too.